Welcome to another Thursday with ThirdPath webinar. All year long, we've been looking at how you can follow an integrated approach to work and life, one where you really excel at work and do a great job, but also have plenty of time and, most importantly, energy for family. I know that feels impossible, but today you're going to learn the secret ingredient to make this something you do in partnership with somebody else at home, whether that's your spouse or partner, or maybe if you're two single parents, another single parent. The key is being able to do this with somebody who can help you negotiate and manage the ups and downs of balancing work and family. And we're going to have two amazing dads talk about how they do this, in particular around the school age years. A lot of people feel like it can be really challenging, and I hope what you're going to learn today is that there really are some opportunities we learn balancing work and family during the school age years that we can use for the rest of our lives. Should be a really great call. So glad to have you be part of it, Roger and Michael. We're going to start, though, by talking kind of big picture because we've asked City Dads to join us. They're doing an amazing job helping dads not feel quite so alone in their decision to really be very involved in the caregiving of their children. And I'm going to let Matt tell you a little bit more about City Dads when he speaks, but we have Matt Schneider joining us from City Dads. And I'm going to start the call by talking with Matt to kind of get the big picture about how we think about these issues and why, when we're talking about balancing work and family in the school age years, we actually have to have some special slides about dads' involvement with this issue, slides that we might not even include when we're talking about this issue, and it's just talking about moms balancing work and family in the school age years. So Matt, we're going to get your thoughts in a second. I'm going to set the stage. I'm so glad we're doing this call with you and City Dads. You guys are really doing some amazing things. But as I've mentioned, all year long, we're looking at how to balance work and life over the life course. And the school age years really bring some challenges. You can have sick kids, school closings, extracurricular activities. I mean, actually, it feels like they're on steroids lately. Everybody has got to do a million things. And then there's summertime. And in general, we really feel like it's really important for families to have time and take care of themselves. Matt, you've been through this yourself a little bit. You've talked to lots and lots of dads around this. What are some thoughts you've had off the cuff about balancing work and family in the school age years, either from your own life or working with other dads that you've learned about?
Well, I can't say it enough times, but I keep saying this is the best time in the history of the world to be a dad, because we do get to be so involved, not just when our kids are born, not just in those early days changing diapers, but even more so as our kids get older and are really fun to be around. And I think that's what I've really appreciated about really being active and engaged in my kids' lives is we have a lot of fun together during the school year and in the summer. And I can see dads across all of our groups across the country really starting to embrace the idea of enjoying this time with their kids.
Yeah, well, we're going to come back to that. So that's the big question today. I actually believe the school age years are a golden opportunity for us to really think in a smart way around work-life integration. And the beauty of it is you can get into a pattern that lasts for many, many years because they're in school for many, many years. And I'm going to tell you a little secret later as we get into the call about how I actually reused this knowledge now that I'm an empty nester. So Matt, we've known each other a long time. You've seen this 1,000 times. Basically, there's a really long list of forces that can make it difficult for men or women to balance work and family in a way where they actually have time and energy for the family responsibilities. But, obviously men in particular face some very unique challenges. No surprise, cultural norms are a big one that can really make it challenging for men to be actively involved parents at any point in time, including the school age years. Want to speak a little bit about some of these forces that make it difficult for men in particular, to find time to be involved as caregivers?
Absolutely. I think cultural norms are certainly one of the biggest issues facing fathers being engaged in their kids' lives. But I also think the cultural norms are changing so fast in so many realms of life, but also in how moms and dads are dividing up the home.
Yeah.
In those families that have two parents, it's no longer okay for one parent to be in charge of everything related to the home while the other parent is in charge of everything related to the work. There's a real melting that goes on between the roles. And first and foremost, dads really want to be involved in our kids' lives. And we've seen in marketing especially, marketers recognize that dads are purchasing items related to their family lives, everything from strollers to diaper bags, all the way through baseball bats and backpacks and all that. And when they used to make fun of dads in the commercial and laugh at them as parents, they're now really embracing us and recognizing that we're partners in our kids' lives and with our significant others in parenting, and not just the buffoon that can't handle any of parenting's simplest tasks.
Yeah, really. And praise to you guys for making that happen, because it took a large group of men to stand up and say, hey, wait a minute, stop doing that. Stop making us look like the buffoons. But, obviously what we're going to talk about today is that how our organizations really can influence this in a positive or a negative way. And then I think what you'll really hear us focus on in a big way today is what we can be doing as, a family system. And so that's what I'm going to talk about next. How, like what Matt said, there really is a lot, no matter how you've arranged work and family, there you can really create a team at home to think about the school age years or any stage of integration. So wonderful. All right. So this is the simplified version of what's happening to you as a family system. So each of us on this call today has a family system we're managing around. And it's influenced by the work we do and the work our partner does. If we have someone else that we are sharing the care of our kids with, or creating a team at home around. It has a little bit to do with the organizations we work for, not only ours, but our partner's organization. And it has a little bit to do with the needs of our family, including that we all need money. And how do we make that all work? I want to put a plug in. We're going to actually talk about work, family, balance, and money on our next webinar for next month. So it really is a great call. Please join us. We really will be talking some real smart ideas around how to make work, family, balance, and money work. But these three factors all influence us. And the other interesting thing is that kids grow up. So again, Matt, you've seen this in the dads you work with, but you've seen this in your own lives. Your family has changed a little bit over time. And are you surprised by how much change happens as your kids get older and work and family changes? What are you seeing today in school age years that you couldn't even imagined back when they were little?
Well, as you know, Jessica, we have what you call the reverse traditional relationship. My wife works outside the home full time. She's got the big job. And I have been at home with my kids for 12 years. And in those early years, being at home with the kids meant hands-on every minute. I was making their meals. I was getting them to classes. I was getting them to the park. And it really was a full-time job. I'm still at home, but over time, they've, of course, gone to school. And they're getting old enough to go out on their own, be on their own at home, which has allowed me to spend more time on the work that I do, which has become City Dads Group. We started City Dads Group as NYC Dads Group 10 years ago, and at that point I gave it a week or a few hours a week. Now I'm spending 20, 30, sometimes more than that per week on everything related to City Dads Group. And I can still be at home, still focused on my kids when they need me, but in those hours when they are otherwise engaged, I can be focused on my work. I think also, as I mentioned earlier, when I am with my kids, it's just a lot more fun. Like I'm not standing watching them at a playground play. We're together riding our bikes up the West Side Highway in New York City, or going camping, or any of these things. And I'm at a really good time in my life when I enjoy doing this stuff. They're at a time when we get to enjoy these things together. And especially during the summertime, they are home. They don't really like going to camp. they like kind of relaxing and being less focused on something structured. So I use that opportunity to take a step back from City Dads Group and really connect with them, and we enjoy our time together. And
Yeah.
the past many summers, we've really had adventures, and it's been great.
Yeah, well, actually, thank you for a sneak preview of where we're going, because again, over and over again, the theme today is going to be, I really see the school age years as an opportunity to think in new ways about how to do life in a very integrated way, where we have time for these other pursuits, you know, growing this amazing organization, City Dads. How many cities are you in now, Matt?
34 cities as of this very moment.
Okay, so here's Matt, you know, making this an amazing organization that's really making a difference in men's lives. And also, it's an opportunity to really connect with our families in a meaningful and fun way. So I hope another theme you hear today is that, yes, there are many influences that make it difficult for us to balance work and life in an integrated way, for men to get involved with these solutions alongside women. There are many, many forces, including this crazy 24/7 world we live in, that could let us work everywhere all the time. But with groups like City Dads, Third Path Institute, and you guys listening in today, the actions we take today really can influence wider change. And I hope that's what you'll also hear as a theme in today's webinar. Given that, I'm going to let one more person who's an amazing resource speak today. We're just so impressed with Boston College Center for Work and Family. They've been doing amazing work forever. And I guess, I don't know, for the last 5 years, 7 years, been really doing some great work around dads issues. And so I asked one of them, Jennifer Rohn in particular, to join us and speak a little bit about what they've been learning about dads today, because they've done some great research, I think in particular looking at working dads, a large interview study. So tell us more about what you've been learning about these dads, Jennifer. We're so glad you could join us.
Sure. Thanks, Jessica. I've been a big admirer of your work for many years as well, and just want to give a shout out to Matt.
Yay, Matt.
Inspiration to us since the early days of our fatherhood research. So we've been working at this for actually almost 10 years now. We've published 8 reports so far, exploring the changing roles of men, both at home and in the workplace. And I'm going to try to give you a very quick summary of some of our findings in the next few minutes. So as Matt said, men today really want to be active and fully engaged in caring for their children, whether that is as the primary caregiver, an equal co-parent, or even dads who are in more traditional breadwinner roles are really striving to be more hands-on with their children. So here I share a few of the points we've learned through the surveys that we've done with well over 1,000 dads now in the past 10 years or so. And I just want to point out a couple that I think are important and contributing to some changes that we're seeing in the workplace. So the second point there, we did a study several years ago on men's attitudes toward paternity leave. And we're very impressed to note that about 89% of the dads, about 1,000 dads in the survey, believe that paternity leave is important. And 60% of those said it was very or extremely important to them as they were considering a new job. Now, if we reflect back to 2010, when we began this research, paternity leave for dads was extremely rare. And fast forward to today, we see company CEOs coming out and making huge pronouncements about offering gender-neutral parental leave, which is available to both moms and dads. So we truly believe that some of the research that we've done and others in this field and advocate groups like Jessica's and Matt's have really contributed to some progress in that area where paternity leave is now something that many, many dads are asking for, and they're also beginning to receive. And the other point is the next one here around flexibility. As Matt mentioned, it's great to be there for those beginning days when you have a new infant and you're learning how to be a dad. But even more important is throughout your child's life that you're able to have the flexibility that you need in the workplace to be a full participant in their lives, and really be able to be there for the special moments and when your child needs you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, lots of really, look how much, like what Matt was saying, how much the world has changed. In fact, I think what you've really come up with is, and our next slide is some really fascinating truths here about this kind of clustering of dads that you've learned about. Tell us a little bit about what we're seeing on this slide.
Yes, absolutely. So our latest report, which we published in June of 2017, was entitled The Career Caregiving Conflict. And so we explored data that we had gathered from over 1,000 dads, and through some creative analysis, we were able to identify these 3 different prototypes of what we called the new dad. And those, as you can see, are egalitarian, traditional, and conflicted fathers. And now labeling the third one as conflicted is not intended to say that the egalitarian and the traditional dads don't experience work-life conflict, but it's more to indicate that this sense of conflict was more pervasive among these dads. These were dads who wanted to be an equal partner, but in reality, their spouse was still doing more than they were, and they found this to be very frustrating to them. They were falling short of their own aspirations, which impacted their feelings of satisfaction both at home and at work. So if we look at the 4 different data points of comparison, the first one is wanting to spend more time with children, and you can see that all of the dads very clearly would like to have more time with their children. But among the conflicted dads, this was the most pronounced. The egalitarian dads were already at least claiming to be 50-50 equal co-parents with their spouse. And so it was more natural for them to already have more time with their children. The traditional dads were happy having a more traditional breadwinner role in their families, but clearly still want to have more time with their children. And you can see on the next tier there, we're looking at whether or not these dads had a working spouse or partner. So you would expect in the egalitarian fathers that most of them would have a working spouse. These families are sharing both breadwinning and caregiving responsibilities. For the traditional dads, most of them did not have a working spouse or partner, and those who were working were generally working part-time. So that does go back to that traditional family structure where the father is the breadwinner and the mother is the caregiver. And so for both the egalitarian and traditional dads, they comprise just over 30% of the sample of the 1,000 dads that we had. The conflicted dads were actually the largest group, and they were more likely to have a partner who was working part-time, but certainly not earning an equal amount or earning enough to make a significant contribution to support the family. So part of our hypothesis was that these dads felt really pressured to be that breadwinner at work, but they really still wanted to be involved at home, and so that was causing the personal angst and the conflict.
Yeah.
And so, Jessica, I know I'm approaching my 5 minutes. If you want to just bring up that last point on the slide, just to reinforce that on all the indicators that we reviewed, the egalitarian dads were most satisfied with both their life at home and their life at work. And not surprisingly, the conflicted dads were the least satisfied. They were struggling in both the work and family spheres. And I know, Jessica, the Third Path is a real big advocate of that egalitarian model. And this data really lends some support to that model in terms of men in particular finding fulfillment when they have that more egalitarian relationship.
Wonderful, wonderful. So that, just showing us so much about how the world has changed drastically, how what we're advocating for really makes sense. And just to be clear, Third Path actually really wants to support every family to find what they want as their most preferred option, but to be an advocate for reducing the barriers men face to be actively involved caregivers. And ultimately, we think a lot of families really want to have a real shared approach. So wonderful, fantastic. What we're going to get to next is the idea that, yes, there are these external factors that can make things difficult for us to follow this integrated approach, even during the school age years. But when you kind of get together as a team at home and really have a common vision, you can really start overcoming these obstacles and turning them into real opportunities. So Roger, thank you for letting us set that background stage. I know you feel like it's old hat for you to be an actively involved dad, but unfortunately that's still new news today. You have a great story that I need you to tell in like 3 minutes or less about how you became the dad you are today, including some of the things you like about the school age years. Tell us, Roger.
Sure thing. Thanks, Jessica. So just a little background for everybody. My kids, my son is 8.5 years old now, and my daughter is 3.5. And both me and my wife are working reduced part-time schedules. So I'm in the office 3 days a week, and my wife's in the office 2 days a week, and we sprinkle some work from home in there as well. But that means somebody's always home to get the kids off to school. My daughter, she's in preschool right now. My son's full-time second grade. And so with that, we can always get the kids off to school. Somebody's there to be home when they come off the bus or to go pick them up. And I am with a daughter right now. With being preschool, we still have half a day each day to spend with her and do fun things that are only possible for her. Or, well, my son's still in school as well as on Fridays. And so we've been doing similar stuff for about 9 years now. And over the course of this, it's really been fantastic just to be able to have that time with the kids when they're young, watching them grow and finding ways in which, it's like, hey, I'm not stuck at work every day of the week. I can take the kids to the zoo, or I can go to the park, or I can, interact with other people, set up play dates and just really be there with them for that. And I mean, it's really been a lot of fun. As far as the challenges and joys of the school-aged years, I think just start on the challenges first. By far the hardest bit of it is the mornings. Make sure that the kids are up on time and fed and eaten and ready to go, and get my son off on the bus and then drive my daughter off to preschool. That's always a challenge, like every single day, and it almost always comes down to us not wanting to get out of bed on time to do everything. Make sure they're where they need to be, and so working on that. But it's there. But I mean, from a fun aspect, my daughter is just starting to get to that age where she's really able to play well with my son independently of us, and it's amazing to watch that happen. And then just watch how she looks up to her big brother, and then just as well, there's so many great activities that can be done now with my son at the age he is. There's of course going biking or things of that nature, but also it's like he likes to go to the rock climbing gym and rock climb with me, so we'll do that on occasion. Or we went to the trampoline park yesterday, and it's a lot of fun to be able to have that interaction with him as well.
Yeah. Key word there, just a lot of fun. And again, one of the things we won't be talking about in this call is that I think all that connection that you're having with your son and daughter at this age comes in so handy as they become teens, because it's become very normal for you to be present and around, and teens kind of show up at their time and place, and so you're there for your teens, and it's not such a strange thing that you're suddenly showing up for your teens. So you're really setting some patterns that will be really useful as kids grow up older. Michael, how about you? You also have an amazing story. I know it's shifted a couple of times. So the quick 3-minute story of how you've gotten to where you are today and what you like about the school age years. Michael, you might be on mute. We are listening for Michael, and we might go back to having Roger speak about some more challenges. Michael, just checking if you're there. Okay. All right. I'm sure we're going to figure this technology out. It's not going to make the best of us. We'll get the best of it. So as Roger was talking about, there are some challenges around the school age years and some challenges around the new family years. But you know what happens is you kind of build a toolbox that's a bigger and bigger repertoire of things. Both you and your partner build a toolbox about how to kind of manage all those challenges. You know, you mentioned mornings. I'm sure that everybody on this call was recognizing the challenges of mornings. Wait till you get a teenager and trying to deal with mornings, let me tell you. But there's some other challenges, like, you know, the unexpected closings. I had a year when my son really didn't like his teacher, and that was an interesting challenge. Do any of these other challenges I've listed here ring a bell, Roger? And what did you learn around how to kind of better manage school closings or sick child care? Tell us a little bit about that.
So the balancing of school closings or sick child care has actually been pretty non-eventful for us because of how one of us is always at home anyway. Okay. So the worst of it becomes for us there is if I've got a meeting scheduled at that time and I've got to really balance the fact that I've got to be on this meeting while they're at home. And for the most part, everybody at work knows that I do this, that I'm at home 2 days a week and I work some telecommuting on those days. And if it comes to that, there's a kid screaming in the background, I just apologize and go take care of it and come back on the line when I'm available. It's being upfront and honest about the situation, I think, I've found has been very successful for me.
Wonderful.
It doesn't come up that often, truthfully.
Well, and I can see probably what the technological problem is that I had to mute everybody, and then somehow Michael's not been unmuted, so I'm going to try one more time to unmute everybody and hand mute everybody and see if we can get Michael. I'm just checking if we can hear your voice this time, Michael. Are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
That was the problem. All right, it's just getting smarter than GoToMeeting to make it work. So thank you, Michael. You have a very different situation of how you've balanced work and family, in the past and today. What do you tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are today and some of the things you like about the school age years and some of the challenges?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me on the call. It's really a pleasure to be speaking with you all and to hear you again, Jessica. I really feel like I'm now at the point where I'm leading a pretty integrated life, doing good work, having a lot of time with my family to take care of responsibilities and other areas of life. So I'm just grateful for the role that ThirdPath has played in that. We had our first kid, Tina, who's 7 now, and in 2nd grade when my partner and I were still in grad school. So that gave us a fair amount of flexibility, although we had to be really careful. And I got some advice right before she was born that just really made me look carefully at, the choices that I was making and if I was really setting up my life in a way that I'd be able to devote time to sharing the responsibilities of child care. And so I took a semester off and then took fewer classes and took on fewer work requirements or obligations in the following years that remained in grad school. And then after that, when I went onto the job market, I looked for jobs that I knew would include reduced hours and then asked with more or less success about the kinds of flexibility that I'd have around setting those hours. And that's just continued to be the case. I worked part-time for a couple of years, around half-time. And just recently, now we have 2 kids, a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old. And just recently, starting this past fall, I began working full-time for the first time since having kids. And what's made that possible is again, some workplace flexibility policies, having my own sense of what I can say yes to and what I should say no to around the kinds of work that I accept. And then we share a house with my partner's parents, my in-laws, and they are a huge help to us as well in terms of making these things work. I hope that's a little bit of helpful information. In terms of the school years, it's just really, really delightful to get to spend time with the kids at this age. They're full of interesting, fun, new ideas, fun things that they want to explore. It's fun to share with them things that I loved from my own growing up, and to sort of see it through their eyes and to revisit it as an adult. I mean, I love the work that I do. I love a lot of what I get to do, but getting to spend time with my kids is definitely the best part of it all.
Yeah, well, you guys both said something that you're doing, and I want to underscore it. I hope everybody listening in has heard two important themes. Both Roger and Michael had some one-on-one alone time with their children early on, and I think that pattern of really having some time alone as a dad with their kids set up something that they wanted for the rest of their lives, so that they got some sense of competency and joy of being able to see themselves as a really excellent caregiver of their children. The other thing that both Roger and Michael have done in different ways, but both doing the same thing, is set some boundaries around work time. Work will take every single second you have available and then some. And so Roger and Michael have been learning, I can't do it all. What's the best use of my time at work? And how do I say in a smart way, and set some boundaries in a smart way, no to some other things? Because that takes us to the next slide. Ultimately, we all have limited time. And unfortunately, I think what happens is that because we're all so busy, we're like on a gerbil wheel. You know, we get up on Monday morning and we rush the kids out the door and we bring them home at nighttime and we rush them through dinner into bed, and then we do that all week long, and then we rush through errands on the weekend and we start all over again. And that's exhausting for everybody involved. We want more time. We want more time for ourselves. We want more time as couples. We want some time for fun things. But if we're spending so much time on, for example, extracurricular activities with our kids, or we're spending so much time at work, we're not really going to get to some of these other fun things. So maybe I'll start again, this time with Michael. Obviously, one thing you've done is you've had your in-laws, you're living in an intergenerational house, and that probably helped you have a little bit of self-time and couple time. But I bet there's some other skills you've learned personally or as a couple to kind of make sure you get some self-time, couple time, fun time. What have you learned, Michael, around making that top side of the triangle happen? And then we'll hear from Roger.
So I guess just with work, what's really helped me is to not commit to more than I am expected to do or more than I need to do. And I'm pretty frequently able to just say, you know what, if it was fine the way they did this thing last year, there's ways that I could make it better, but I'm not going to bother.
Yep.
I don't think it'll make a big difference.
Yep.
And it'll certainly take away time from these other things that I want to do. I think also something that helps is we have a lot of kind of structured time that's already built in that we're expecting to spend together, and that's something that helps a lot. I know different families do that different ways. They, have a date night that's sacred to them or something like that. And in my family as well, we have time that people are already expecting to get to spend together, and I think that makes it something that happens much more consistently.
Yeah.
And then we don't have our kids signed up for very many activities. I think that's in part because, I don't want to drive them around all over the place. And so, I don't know, we've reached an understanding, my partner and I, that we don't want to sign them up for too much. At one point, it was just one activity that's creeping slightly upwards, and we might need to revisit it as the kids get older. But in any case, having a shared understanding that we just don't want to sign the kids up for a whole lot of different things also means that we have more time with them.
Yeah.
And more time for each other because,
Yeah. I actually joked that I was a slacker parent when I was raising my kids. And what I hear you saying are two things. I'm going to call the thing you talked about at work. We actually officially call it a gem at ThirdPath, good enough mode. There's many times when we just should do good enough mode. It's strategic. You don't need to do super bonus points mode on many things. And keeping it to good enough mode means you have time to spend more time on the more important things at work, or just more time and energy. And routines, I heard you talk about, setting up routines where you can really just count on that every blah, 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 you get together as a couple or as a family quietly doing something or whatever. So great. Roger, you're listening in. How have you guys gotten smart about creating a little bit more breathing room in your lives so you have it to use the way you want to use it?
I guess I don't know if I've got a lot more breathing room in our lives, but we certainly find the time to keep for ourselves to make sure we have some fun time or get out and do date nights and such. And a big part of it is not fun as it sounds. It's really about scheduling everything. We've got a shared calendar that if you look out, if we want a date night, we got to get that on the calendar and make sure to block off the time, or with the kids' activities, or if you got things individually you want to do, it's like we make sure that that's all out there. So it doesn't get creep. We don't creep through that. And so we make sure to leave some time to just spend at home and do stuff with the kids there. Like play games or help them out with art or whatever it is that they're doing or reading. And so that's kind of been what's been working out well for us. I mean, there's certainly at times where we feel overscheduled and maybe pulled too many directions, especially if we try not to schedule our kids for too many different events going on throughout the week or activities. But with two of them and different interests, it sometimes diverges into weird directions where it does become overloaded, especially if something's starting up before something else is finished and overlapping for a week. But those are generally just short-lived type of issues. Yeah.
I'm not, none of us, hopefully, I hope nobody's listening in today thinks we're going to get to nirvana. That ain't going to happen. There's going to be difficult times of the year, difficult seasons of the year, difficult weeks of the year, when things really just clash. But I think what I'm hearing both Roger and Michael do is be really intentional about the use of time, including, for example, a family calendar. And I also hear them doing something else, that they're taking time to reflect for themselves and as a couple, what really makes sense. They're getting clear about what their priorities are. And once you get really clear about what you want to do, outside of work, it helps you get smarter about how you better manage how much work you can really handle. And I think most importantly, experiment, learn, repeat. This is not something that you learn once and then it's solved, because kids change, jobs change, everything's constantly changing. So we have to keep on relearning how to figure out what's going to work well for everybody as these changes occur. We're running out a little bit of time, so we're not going to be able to do this as much as I'd like. But I want to argue that summers are often seen as a real terrible problem. And I would like to turn that on its head and say, I think summers are a real opportunity for us to kind of recalibrate and really think about what do we want to make time for. I do remember sitting on the steps with my husband and pulling our hair out trying to make summers work. So it wasn't always easy, but we then finally found some patterns that worked well for us that we could keep on repeating over the course of future summers. And we were able to slow down and enjoy summers. Maybe I'll start with Roger, just one or two takeaways that you might have learned that makes summers work better for you. And then I'll ask Michael the same. Is there something that you've learned around how to make summers work for you? I know they can be really hard from a summer work-life balance point of view.
Sure, yeah. I mean, obviously, with the kids not in school, it puts a little more pressure on us throughout the summer. And one of the things we did when Dylan was younger was we'd hire babysitters throughout the week, for a couple hours each day to help us still maintain the work time needed. as he's gotten older, we didn't need to do that so much. And with, my daughter, she's got her brother around as well, so that kind of takes some of the pressure off. There's still things that are a little more difficult with that, though. And we also try. We try to get him in, sign up for some summer camps. My daughter's not quite old enough for that yet, but then there's also a really great program through the school we'll be utilizing that is kind of like, it's not exactly preschool, but it's like teaching her like some science and fun arts type of stuff that runs for half the summer as well, for half days. And so we try to get involved with that kind of stuff, but also it's a summer, it's for playing, it's to have fun. So we do utilize that time more for play dates and getting out and doing fun stuff outside.
Yeah.
Instead of only focusing on, hey, I've really got to do this much work today. It's making sure that stuff happens as well.
Yeah. Wonderful, wonderful. And how about you, Michael? I know in some ways you have a seasonal work schedule, so maybe it just slows down a lot in the summertime. Is that what happens for you?
Yeah, that's one part of it. I guess there was an important moment before accepting the job, which I recently started, where I could either ask them to find more money to pay me, or I could say, "Oh, well, how about I work an 11-month schedule?" So that was an important moment because I'll get the month of July to spend more time with the kids.
Yeah. Well, in fact, watching the time, I'm going to jump in right there and say that's what I want the future to look like, because, hey, an 11-month schedule means that you get some time with your school-age kids. An 11-month schedule means that millennial in your organization that doesn't have kids yet could go traveling for a little bit. I think we can get our organizations to be smarter about this and see, getting comfortable with the idea that someone might be away for a month means that, when there's a parental leave, when you have school-age care, when you have a millennial who wants to travel, when you have a person who wants to phase into retirement, there's lots of ways we can use that idea as a chance to kind of see what is it like for someone to have a whole month themselves to go do something else. I think there's an opportunity for all of us if our organizations could start thinking smarter about this. I know it might feel like a pipe dream, but look how much Jennifer showed us how things are changing for dads. So that's what I want to get to. I hope what you've heard today, it's a little bit about what our organizations are doing. It's also about what's happening at home, and really having, in a two-parent household where it's a mom and dad, having them really think together, how do we want to make it work over the summertime? And that the more we can really see a partnership at home, as opposed to one parent kind of being a gatekeeper or ambivalent about having the other partner involved, the more we can come up with some creative solutions. So we've been having Matt listen in to some of these stories. We've been having Jennifer, who's got some great expertise here too. I want to check back with those guys. Matt, what comes to mind as you've heard Roger and Michael talk about summers and balancing work and family? Something else that you think is important to share with people today? Then I'll check in with Jennifer.
Well, what I love about hearing from guys like Michael and Roger is that these are guys in real jobs. I've been at home and I've built my organization around me being able to take off when I need to and be with my kids when I need to. But Roger works for Ford Motor Company, not exactly the organization I would think of as one would favor this kind of thing. And I've heard his story a couple times now, and they really have been supportive because he's advocated for himself and figure out a way. So I think that kind of story is what really resonates for moms and dads listening, that this organizations can get on board if you figure out a way to make it work for them as well. And Michael saying, hey, I can work, you can pay me for 11 months and I'll take July off, was a great answer to, well, we can't pay you more, so what's going to happen?
Yeah.
So I think really that negotiation with the interests of the organization in mind as well is really important.
Yeah, looking for that win-win, something that works well for the family, something that really works well for the organization, and those are great examples. In fact, we didn't have time today to talk about it, but behind Roger's story is actually a great conversation he had to have with his wife about, hey, we both work at Ford. I can also work a reduced hour schedule. Jennifer, is there something you'd like to add? And then the next slide I'm going to be putting up is a slide where I'm encouraging people to speak up and share their thoughts. I will turn the recording off during that time. so that we can actually have people feel comfortable asking their questions and make use of this live event. Jennifer, something you'd like to add that you've been hearing? Yeah.
Thanks, Jessica. Yeah, this just made me think of another study we did 2 years ago on millennial men and women and how they navigate their career. And one of the things that we found was the couples who had more frequent work-life discussions had a much higher satisfaction with their marriage. So we're talking about not only increasing satisfaction with the amount of time spent with children and potentially increasing satisfaction with work and career, but also the marital relationship. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Amen, sister. I couldn't agree more. So wonderful. All right, I told everybody that this would be a point in the webinar. I'm going to turn off the recording, and then I'm going to pause fast for us to have more discussion about those questions that you guys raised. And I think this idea that it's a habit that both of them got smarter about, that this was not a win-lose situation. They could look for an answer that was good for their family and also going to be good for their organization, and that they could really then, because it was logical, everybody was benefiting, it gave them more clarity to go ahead and ask for that. And just having had some success before around this also gave them some more courage to ask for it again. So this has been awesome. We're going to get close to the wrap-up part of the call. I am going to give Roger and Michael the final word. But Jennifer, before I give them the final word, there might be one last thing you want to share about something that you've been hearing today. And then I'm going to ask Matt, then I'll give Roger and Michael the final word. Was there one last thought you wanted to share today, Jennifer? Thank you so much for the great research you're doing. 10 years on this great research. That's awesome.
Oh, sure. I just wanted to refer people to our website. All of our reports are available on there for free. They can sign up for our mailing list if they're interested. So it's www.bc.edu/CWF. And thanks again for including me, Jessica.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. And Matt, there might be something that you're wanting to add, and I'm looking forward to seeing you at the ILA forum. Matt's been there every time we've had it. It's really, in fact, I think Matt's right there in the picture. It's been a really great event where you can learn a lot about these issues, either because you're a professional working with families, or if you're a mom or dad who just wants to join us this year. We only have it every other year, so this is an open event for you guys to join if you'd like to come. Matt, a final word you'd like to share.
I'll reiterate it is a great event, not just for the professionals working on these types of issues, but also for the couples, the men and women thinking about these kinds of issues. It's a great opportunity to connect with like minds. And I think I'll just echo Jennifer's sentiment. Thank you for continuing to have this conversation and talk about these issues with a variety of types of people. I think it's not just people who consider themselves in an egalitarian relationship. My wife and I have very much structured our lives in a very traditional way, but we are both very actively engaged in our family and our kids' lives, and that's what's worked for us. And I think any model can work as long as people are continuing to communicate with each other.
Yeah, like what Jennifer's research showed you, that good communication makes for happy marriages. Isn't that a super bonus point too? Hey, I promised the last word to first Michael, if you have a last word, and then Roger, I'm going to give you the last word. Michael, any last thoughts, any suggestions you have for people around these issues that we've talked about today?
Oh, well, there are just a ton of resources out there. ThirdPath provides a lot of resources, and through ThirdPath you can find other resources like that. Also, some counseling kinds of help was incredibly important for us to make this work in our family. So I hope people will look into those if they need them. You don't have to do it all by yourself.
Yeah, don't do it by all yourself. I couldn't have done it all by myself. Got lots of support along the way. Great advice. Any last thoughts, Roger?
Yeah, so I guess along the lines of what Michael was saying there, one of the other things I think is really important with this is if you're thinking about this at all, just have those discussions with your spouse, because getting both members of the team at home on board is really critical to making this work. And making it work well. Much more, I mean, of course, you got to get your working on board as well, but having both spouses on the same page is huge for this.
Yeah, yeah. I couldn't agree more. In fact, I was going to put up the supporting dad slide because we really have seen that. You know, if we wait for organizations to change, we're going to be waiting. You know, yes, there's some more and more that are getting more progressive, but really it's still going to be a slow slog. So getting two people to think together about this, they can really overcome a lot and create solutions that really work well for them. Hey, thank you, everybody. I am going to stop the recording, and if there's more questions, I will see if we can all stay and ask and answer those questions. But let me pause the recording to begin with.